Good evening. Colonel Simmons, Brigadier Naughton, Lieutenant Colonel MacLeod, and Lieutenant Colonel Boudet. I'd like to welcome you this evening to Halifax Hall, along with all the former commanding officers who are present this evening. Halifax Hall was a part of City Hall when City Hall officially opened in 1888, but for a long time we lost Halifax Hall. It became a group of offices with a drop ceiling and some barricades and some separators, and we lost the splendour of this hall for many years until 1985 on the 1st of January when Madame Sauvé once again opened this hall to its returned splendour, and it seems like a very appropriate place to hold this reception this evening in honour of the Princess Louise Fusiliers, who came from the city's beginnings in 1749 when Edward Cornwallis brought together some men to defend the city that he was about to found. Since that time you have been represented well through many, many conflicts that this country has known in Spain, the American Revolution, the War of 1812. You later became, earlier than being the Prince Louise, became known as the 1st and 2nd Battalion, Halifax. It wasn't until 1896 that you chose the name of Princess Louise Fusiliers, and this year we will celebrate the fact that you will be 150 years old. In fact, I think we will celebrate on the actual day, tomorrow, June 18th, which makes it rather a splendid occasion. The Princess Louise Fusiliers were also featured greatly in the city history when you assisted the city in the major explosion that took place in 1917, and Colonel Simmons has reasons to remember that occasion. So tonight I'm very pleased that Council is able to host you here to welcome you. I know that you were very active in World War II, and some members present this evening, in fact, who were active in World War II, and I will assure you that there are no asters in the flower arrangement. Growing up in wartime Britain, I am familiar with the fine lady and all that she did. So I do welcome you. I hope you will enjoy your evening, and I'm going to now turn over to someone who also remembers all that Lady Astor said and much, much more from the Second World War, a former mayor of the city of Halifax, Colonel Leonard Kipps.
Your Worship, Fusiliers, and ladies and gentlemen, I think I should speak no more because I was just promoted from captain to colonel. I will seek all appropriate back pay. In your name, and certainly my own, I express our appreciation to the Mayor, recognizing the Fusiliers and our association over the last century and a full 25 years more. We have just concluded the 50th anniversary of D-Day, replete with fulsome praise and proper recognition of that attack equal to great military occasions of history. Canadian units gallantly played a part in that event together with US and UK forces. During that time, the PLF were engaged in a stubborn ongoing assault through the mountains and watercourses that interlace Italy, where veteran Axis numbers bitterly contested each stretch of that defensive country. As other Canadian units, we, the PLF in Italy, closely followed the D-Day landings and the events that followed. And with that exquisite sense of humor prevalent in the Canadian Army, in a different theatre of war, the expression that gained some jocularity was to refer to ourselves as the D-Day Dodgers. Indeed, the presence of the PLF in Italy stemmed from a fundamental change of strategy for the Canadian forces there. The 5th Canadian Armoured Division, replete with its numerous tanks, was in Italy, but operations demonstrated that tank movements through that country with numerous water courses were difficult areas to effectively utilize that power. And as a result, an infantry brigade of 3 battalions were added to the 5th Division. Now, the many streams and bodies of water called rivers were pretty small flowage to Canadian eyes. The St. Mary's, or the Annapolis, or the LaHave, any one of which probably contained greater total of water than all these put together. The PLF were added as a support group with large mortars and heavy Vickers machine guns to give extra firepower to the 3 infantry battalions, which, stretching across Canada, were the Cape Breton Highlanders, BC, the Westminster Regiment, and from Ontario, the Perth Regiment. Winter conditions in the mountains area with snow and sleet often provoked the sarcastic cry from the troops, "Is this sunny Italy?" A word too often overlooked when we think about infantry and other units is recognition of the several supporting arms of the forces. One remembers the Service Corps. There was a period when the muddy roads and paths led to the delivery of ammunition and supplies by mule train. I remember that well. When we were doing some covering fire near, just in front of a casino, and they following and their step-by-step onslaught along the Adriatic coast, leading to the fall of Rome. A word of the Royal Canadian Engineers was the use of their efficient Bailey Bridge to crisscross canals and rivers where the steel forms to be erected speedily made means of access. The engineers seem to have their code cross the water despite fire. It brings to mind the slogan of the United States Postal Service over their main building. Neither wind nor rain nor gloom of night shall stop these couriers from their daily appointed routes. It is fitting, too, to make mention of 2 other Nova Scotia battalions in Italy while we were there, namely the Cape Breton Highlanders, who fought hard, and the West Nova Scotia Regiment. That battalion, largely from Lunenburg, Shelburne, Yarmouth, Digby, and Annapolis counties, had a hard time and suffered so many numerous casualties from the terrible widespread use of shoe mines, peppered little mines as the German forces hid, which if touched by an unlucky step to trod and explosives followed horribly enough. A word for the medical services. The figures, when you look at them, cry out. The percentage of fatalities from casualties or ordinary wounds was so sharply reduced in the last war compared to the 1914-18 conflict, where prompt medical assistance and the wonder drug penicillin played its part. Allow me quite a few lines. One's mind goes, the knowledge that the forces would be looked after so promptly with great phase of morale. You may remember those lines that had to do actually with the Boer War, but sticks to one's mind. The bugle sang truce, for the night cloud had lowered, and the sentinel star set its watch in the sky. And thousands had sunk to the ground, overpowered, the weary to sleep, and the wounded to die. That was never the occasion in the last war, where the medical services were always so alert. Cut down the service of persons fit for duty. There was an officer from brigade who enforced the daily use of these yellow pills, I remember so well. On his rounds, a random single shell sent a small piece of metal some distance to strike him fatally in the head. Such are the vagaries of fate, or to repeat the preordained philosophy expression of the troops, came when your number is up. A painful task of any platoon officer was to write the letter to the next of kin when you lost a man. I remember ending such a letter on occasion with the concluding lines of Matthew Arnold, English poet, on Dover Beach. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. Joined external affairs and served with great distinction as Canadian ambassador to several major countries. To accompany me to his funeral, to the service a few weeks ago, some of you will remember Colin Nickerson came up from Mahone Bay. I remember grimly in a counter-mortar bombardment when Colin lost an arm in Italy. After the war, he re-enlisted in the Padre. He went to divinity school and enlisted in the Padre Corps. And he was obviously such a representative figure that when he retired a few years ago, he retired as commandant of the entire Padre Corps and with the rank of Major General. I know that the PLF in all ranks will continue to enjoy the pleasant relationship with the city. Possibly I might conclude by telling you one minor story. As we were leaving Italy in the early part of 45, because there's not much great point in pursuing a little bit further ground forward when things were so bad in Holland. And as we were leaving in a Jeep, and I said to the driver, I said, I can tell you exactly what the last core objective was, and that was that we should debouche on the plains of Lombardy and seize Bologna. And he said, Captain Kitty said, that sounds like baloney to me. And I said, driver, I said, do you know what the Army Act had to say about creating alarm and despondency?
Thank you, Captain. Sorry I got the rank wrong, but I've had some experience of that recently in one of our city schools. A boy came up to me in our grade school and said, I know you. And I said, yes. He said, I know you. He said, you're famous. I said, well, I'm quite well known in the city. I know who you are. And I went on. He said, no, tell me. And we played that game, I said, I know. And she said, I got it. You're the girl on the $2 bill. I would now call on Colonel Simmons to make a few remarks and make a very special presentation to our city.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and all my old friends, Your Worship, I have a very pleasant duty to perform right now, and I want you to know this presentation is on behalf of all our veterans, our serving members, ex-serving members, our present CO, and all our officers. We weren't quite sure of what to do about this situation, but the consensus of opinion was what you will see. So on behalf of all of us, and many thanks to the City of Halifax and our long association, which actually started about 1750 in the Halifax Volunteer Battalion, I would like to present to the City of Halifax, through you, Your Worship, this window as a memento and a thank you to the city.
Thank you. on behalf of City Council to say thank you more sincerely to the PLF and to recognize the craftsman who's responsible, Mr. Cameron. I believe Alderman Walker is present from City Council. Alderman. This window will be placed in a door which is identical to the door at the entrance to Halifax Hall, but it will be placed at the entrance to the council chambers directly above in the centre 6 panels, and so that members of the public coming to attend any city council meeting will see this window in place. There have been some jokes about a grenade, a fine song was written for Lady Asper, enjoy the evening on the street.